Someday, you're gonna be sitting on the toilet, taking a fat dump. You're gonna be ripping off those first few squares to go and wipe that dirty butt. And from the other side of the bathroom door, you're gonna hear a small voice. You're gonna hear a small voice. It's the voice of a child. It's your child. And the child says, for some reason in a British accent,
Mommy, what's Palantir?
"Do you know how to answer that question?"
Hello, citizen. Welcome back to the 21CD podcast. Our host, commonly known as Ghost, has been properly recalibrated for the new age. We hope you enjoy the future. There is very little of it left.
Palantir isn't merely trying to be the biggest database or the best analytics vendor. Its executives openly say the goal is to become the ontology of the world. Ontology is not a marketing buzzword, guys. It's a philosophical term meaning the structure of being itself. In plain English, Palantir wants its software to be the default way all governments, all militaries, and all corporations define what is real about you, and about society, and about threats. John Padfield once said to never piss anybody off who buys server fields by the acre. And nowadays, I think that's pretty good advice. Palantir's foundational objective is pretty simple. It's to merge every single digital footprint that you've ever left into one continuous narrative. Governments and corporations, they used to suffer from fragmentation. Hospitals knew one part of you, banks knew a different part of you, advertisers knew what you liked. Palantir's software isn't just designed to organize these separate data sets. It is designed to fuse them all into one single living organism. You, quantified. Every purchase, every biometric scan that you get when you go to the doctor or the airport, every browser tab that you open, every single border crossing, state or international, every private message, it's all reduced into structured coordinates. To engineers, this is efficiency. And to intelligence agencies, it's foresight. It's a treasure trove of you. To you, it is the quiet death of ambiguity, the last layer of fog that once allowed you to reinvent yourself. Now, thanks to Palantir, you're permanent, baby. And you may think your life is too mundane to matter. Most people do. What would Palantir want with me? You'd be surprised, and that's where you're wrong. The system doesn't care about your individual passions or your sins or your politics or how boring you are or how boring you think you are. It cares about patterns. So, do you stop buying liquor every time you fight with your spouse? Do you walk faster after leaving certain stores? Does your resting heart rate spike when you receive messages from one particular name? These micro signals become behavioral flags, and once the machine knows your rhythms better than you do, it doesn't need to ask what you'll do next because it already knows. Imagine applying for a mortgage in 5 years only to be quietly declined, and it's not because of your income, it's because of your risk profile indicating volatility. There doesn't really even need to be an explanation given. It's just a cold, silent wall that you will smash your face up against. And there's really nothing you can do about it because the machine is in charge. And think about all the tech that you wear that it will be able to draw information from. Your smartwatch, your cell phone, your computer, your air fryer, your home security surveillance, your car that has computer chips in it now, your TV that has been proven to watch you if you have a smart TV, and even your router, which now you can pay an extra fee. I think it's like $5 a month, and you can use your Wi-Fi as a security camera because for some reason the router is able to detect motion within the house. All very valuable assets to Palantir. Very valuable components to what makes that machine function as it should. In other words, giving them a complete picture of your personal, private, and public life. The real horror is that data fusion is irreversible. You can delete a social media post, move cities, switch careers, start fresh, if you will, but the timeline is going to persist. Your past addresses stay linked to your phone, okay? Your previous employment stays married to your old tax forms. Your walk style, captured by security cameras using gait recognition, well, that's enough to reattach your new identity to your old habits. And these are all things that have been proven to be being captured by Palantir. In Palantir's world, there's no such thing as reinvention. Your mistakes become permanent limbs. Your regrets become metadata. The concept of forgiveness is algorithmically obsolete. You can take it up with God. The real world doesn't have time to forgive you. To justify all this, Palantir and its clients use soft language like threat prevention or network visibility or proactive governance. But strip away the euphemisms and what remains is a system that believes no citizen should ever again exist in uncertainty or in any uncertain state of being. An undocumented traveler, for instance, a cash-only worker, a rebellious teenager, a man who simply wants to go off grid and vanish. These types will all become statistical anomalies requiring correction. If you go silent online for too long, your absence itself becomes a signal to Palantir. And the machine begins to ask, why has this life form deviated from the expected script? And this is where it becomes truly dangerous, because once your life is fully mapped, you cease to be unpredictable. And once you cease to be unpredictable, you cease to be free. The essence of humanity lies in the spontaneity, the contradiction, the right to contradict yesterday's self, and all of that will be lost. The system believes that if every human can be fully graphed, society can finally be controlled without force. No handcuffs, no prisons. Just this quiet compliance achieved through this predictive ability that they have. It's not really surveillance. It's more like preemptive sentencing. And I'm sure that Elon Musk's Neuralink will assist them in knowing that we're going to commit whatever act we commit long before we commit it, because they'll be able to read our thoughts. Remember, this is all just 2-3 years away. This isn't some Blade Runner future that you're never going to reach. This is already deeply, deeply developed. This isn't something like, oh, I'm going to be able to stop this, or I'm going to be able to opt out. My brother and sister in Christ, you are already in the system. It is just slowly mapping you without your permission. You don't get a choice. There's no more privacy online. There's no more, there's no more freedom of ambiguity with this kind of tech that we have nowadays. Everything is monitored, even when you're way out in the depths of the woods, of the ocean, of the desert. Way out there, miles and miles and miles. If you have one piece of transmitting tech, you are fucked. And you are monitored. Way out there. The justice system you were raised to believe in, the one where wrongdoing must first occur before punishment is considered, is now little more than some kind of ceremonial memory. Palantir's predictive policing frameworks don't wait for crime. That's one of the main points of this tech. And right now they're using it on the battlefield. They're using it to hunt terrorists, and soon they will use it to hunt you in the same way. And they've already said this. They just said they're going to make sure that most civilians are not on the kill list. Most civilians are not on the kill list. And yeah, that's what they call it, because the kill list is is right now this list of alleged terrorists around the world that Palantir is tracking for our safety. Palantir assigns probabilities to behaviors, as we've already mentioned, and act as though those probabilities are already proof of future crimes or actions. Police departments using Palantir don't just track down known offenders, they generate what are called heat lists. And these heat lists are filled with people who seem statistically likely to commit offenses in the future. It's kind of funny how, despite this, we still can't stop unhinged black people from murdering innocent white girls on buses in North Carolina, don't you think? In cities like Chicago and New Orleans, residents are often approached by law enforcement not for acts that they had committed, but because Palantir's model believed that they are likely to be involved in, let's just say, gun violence. And there haven't been any trials or evidence needed, just statistics that elevated to verdict. To the machine, you're no longer judged by your actions, but by the actions of those who resemble you. Your data profile is compared against millions of anonymized clusters, and if your shopping habits, commuting routes, late-night phone usage patterns align with profiles of past offenders, you're going to be put on a list. You're going to become predefined as a potential threat, you Christian white man. Call it guilt by correlation, okay? Imagine being pulled over and interrogated on your way home, but not because you were speeding, not because of a broken taillight, but because your movement vector analysis matched a burglary pattern common in your neighborhood's escalation curve. The officers can't even explain it. Most likely, most police officers can't even say a sentence like that, but he just knows that your name came up red, so he's going to pull you over. You will not know that you're on this predictive watch list. That's the whole point. There's no legal requirement to inform you that Palantir flagged you as high risk. You'll simply notice that your probation officer is suddenly stricter, or that you're questioned more aggressively during airport screening, or that unmarked cars loiter outside your apartment longer than usual. Even if you do manage to obtain your file, which you never will, you won't be able to even find any accusations. Only phrases like statistical concern or proximal exposure to risk clusters. The language is actually designed to be vague enough to justify intervention without actually admitting that they're profiling you. Tricky how they do that. The system rewires human behavior through invisible deterrents. So, if you realize certain friendships, neighborhoods, or hobbies draw algorithmic suspicion, then you might want to begin to withdraw from them. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you should be afraid by association. And that's going to drive communities apart. And that's going to alienate people, individuals. Whole communities will turn inward. Neighbors will stop interacting. Strangers will stop gathering. Nobody will trust anybody. Nobody will want to be associated with anybody. The randomness of human contact, the birthplace of culture, music, rebellion, love, it will all be algorithmically suppressed in the name of stability. And the most chilling part is that predictive policing doesn't stop crime. It simply selects it. The system narrows its gaze on specific demographics, specific neighborhoods, specific behavioral signatures, and ignores all others. Over time, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more resources focused on a population, the more arrests there are, which then feeds the system with evidence. Evidence that its biases were correct. And this evidence isn't really evidence. It's just guesses that may or may not be correct because this tech is going no matter whether we want it or not. And so the evidence, it really only has to be convincing just enough to be called that. Entire sectors of society, financial criminals, political insiders, white-collar predators, they all exist beyond the model's predictive field. So crime is no longer something to be prevented. It's something to be sculpted. You can essentially create a new reality with this kind of technology. Most people assume governments react to events like riots or economic crashes or shortages or protests, but with Palantir's simulation platforms, reality is going to flip. Governments will now be able to simulate your future reactions to hypothetical events before those events even happen. In other words, Charlie Kirk's death would have been able to be prevented because somebody would have known that Robinson was a total freak and was most likely to be at this place because of his behavioral patterns, and he was also most likely to be some kind of killer. Except Palantir didn't catch Robinson, even though Palantir could have caught Robinson, because Robinson wasn't meant to be caught. That's how it works. If a popular activist is arrested, how many people will gather? Where will they meet? Which highways will they block? These are no longer rhetorical questions. They are calculable variables in software. Palantir's artificial intelligence platform allows agencies to input possible future actions and receive predictive behavioral responses across entire populations. This means you are no longer living in reality. You are living in a pre-mapped behavioral probability field. When the system forecasts that a neighborhood, for instance, will resist a new surveillance policy or economic mandate, the pressure is applied before any dissent can occur. Synthetic influencer campaigns will flood social media weeks in advance to reframe this entire issue. Police presence will quietly increase at these likely flashpoints. Roads are going to be rerouted, supplies will be rerouted, and by the time citizens feel discomfort, their reaction has already been statistically neutralized. You won't even know it's happening before it's already happened, because that's exactly the way it's supposed to be. Imagine waking up one morning to find that food prices have risen sharply, and people should be panicking, but nobody is. It's not because things are stable, it's because stability has been simulated into existence. Ads begin appearing on your phone about new ways to stretch your dollar. Social media influencers beam with positivity about returning to classic recipes and investing in self-reliance. Meanwhile, though, anyone who posts genuine frustration will get quietly throttled by automated moderation. In other words, censored. What you perceive as public sentiment is no longer organic, my friend. It's a managed emotional economy. The emotions that aren't supposed to get through simply won't. This is war without bullets, make no mistake, but it's still war. Not fought between nations, but between populations and their own simulators. In this situation, you genuinely will live in a simulation, because reality will be tracked, monitored, and mapped at every step of the way. Nothing will exist without Palantir's predictive influence. And you say, well, how can Palantir have this much power over me? Well, they give all this information to every single law enforcement within your region. So, anybody with any power over you can use their information, because that's how Palantir makes their money, by selling all of this to those people. What happens when they do this for an enemy nation? Or what happens, God forbid, this system becomes compromised? The battlefield is invisible. The timeline always shifting. Before you can even recognize the pattern. The victory condition is not conquest, it's, pacification. And once the machine becomes accurate enough, resistance won't be crushed. It will simply never occur. Because imagine you want to go and do something crazy with 5 of your best bros. You're just simply never going to get to the part where you talk to your 5 best bros. One of the most dangerous misconceptions about companies like Palantir is the belief that they are somehow neutral, that they are tools that serve whichever government or agency happens to wield them. But Palantir doesn't think of itself as just another contractor. It thinks of itself as an ideological foundation. It's a guardian of Western power, it says, rather than some kind of democratic principle. Peter Thiel, its founder, has openly declared that freedom and democracy are no longer compatible. Let me just say that again. Peter Thiel, the founder of Palantir, has openly declared that freedom and democracy are no longer compatible. This is the guy who is inventing all of this. He also believes that the survival of civilization depends not on voters, but on technocrats and sovereign AI systems managing the direction of humanity. And that's exactly what Donald Trump gave him the green light to go ahead and do with Palantir. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is all published. You can look it up. Use your Google fingers and actually do something good for yourself. Go Google this. Now, all of this creates a paradox. Palantir claims to defend liberty, yet answers only to the governments most capable of paying for control. When working with liberal administrations, it strengthens surveillance over misinformation and extremist speech. Under conservative or nationalist leadership, it repurposes its tools toward border enforcement and domestic unrest. There is no moral compass, only client preference. So Republican, Democrat, Kamala, or Trump. It's going to work for whoever pays it, and it's going to work how those people want it to. The same software used to track legitimate terrorists now can, with a single policy shift, be pointed at political dissidents, union organizers, people who spew hate online, or even parents protesting school boards. The machine has no conscience. It's an AI, guys. It merely mirrors the fears of whoever sits at the console. If a nation drifts into authoritarianism, Palantir isn't going to resist. It's not democratic. It will accelerate because that's what it's paid to do. Imagine a scenario where economic turmoil drives public anger toward the ruling class. Protests grow. A populist leader rises, promising order. The leader inherits Palantir's infrastructure, a ready-made command center for social containment. Overnight, every citizen with a subversive interaction pattern is placed under digital and maybe even physical quarantine. They won't be necessarily arrested, but they will be frozen. So you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to get on any bus or any flight or any train. You're not going to buy any gas from the gas station. You're not going to get any loans. You're not going to get any medical access beyond any sort of ration or what you should already be getting. The regime does not need to ban opposition. It simply preemptively disqualifies those people from participation in life. Imagine being excommunicated from life. You now have to live essentially as a homeless person because you just, we don't really know, but you've got all these patterns that make you seem like you might be unpredictable someday. So no more money for you, no more friends for you. All of your friends are going to become aware that you are kind of a dissident. So to keep their own social accounts and passports legitimate and in good order, they're going to avoid you. And you might think, well, I'll just stay apolitical, right? I'll just keep my mouth shut. But the thing is, neutrality itself becomes suspicious. A citizen who never voices approval of government policy becomes flagged as silent or uncertain or some kind of anomaly. A journalist who never attacks or praises the state is labeled unpredictable. The system prefers enemies over enigmas because they can put a finger on an enemy. Enemies can be isolated. Enemies can be terminated. Enigmas have to be watched. They require time. Your refusal to declare allegiance becomes an indictment. The state does not need you to agree. It needs you to submit. The final horror is this. There is no appeals process against a machine that does not recognize individuals, only categories. So once your risk designation is assigned, right now, no courtroom can overturn it because we're in uncharted territory. No journalist can expose it. No politician can reform it because no one knows that it exists. There is no face to confront, no tyrant to assassinate, only a loyal servant of power with infinite memory and zero remorse. It's an AI. It's an unliving thing, and it will outlive, ironically, every government that employs it. When most people picture a surveillance contractor like Palantir, they do imagine a software vendor shipping disks and logins to an agency and then disappearing. Or when they say, oh yeah, we delete that picture that we took of you 30 seconds after we take it at the DMV or at the airport. No, they don't. Palantir has already bought that the second it happens. Palantir is different. It doesn't sell you software. It embeds its own engineers directly inside the agencies themselves. If a police department buys Gotham, it doesn't just get a dashboard. It gets a Palantir team with physical desks inside the command center. They wear badges and access privileges rivaling sworn officers. These are not elected officials. They're not sworn public servants. They don't take an oath. They are private employees with corporate loyalties sitting at the heart of state power. Most likely people who get paid around $60,000 a year. Regular people ratting you out and running the machine that kills you. This blending of private and public authority will quietly rewrite the entire chain of command everywhere that it goes. I mean, just picture a war room during a national emergency. Around the table, you'll see the military officers, you'll see intelligence analysts, you'll see cabinet members, and 2 Palantir staffers whose ID badges will read something like consultant. And these guys don't just maintain the software. They advise on how to structure data queries, which targets to prioritize, and what risk thresholds to set based on what they're doing, where they're doing it. That input, though presented as technical expertise, is de facto policy. That's what it is. And so when decisions are being made at the speed of software, the person who designs the query effectively decides the outcome. It's kind of like how all those nurses were saying they're not going to help the people who supported Charlie Kirk's message. You know, they're going to let the people die who were conservative if they come into the hospital, stuff like that. Yeah, the machine's going to get to decide whether or not you deserve to live as well. Because Palantir staff are not government employees, they are not bound by the same transparency or accountability laws. The Freedom of Information Act requests stop at their cubicle walls. If a citizen demands to know why their name ended up on a watch list, the agency can honestly reply, "We don't know. It's the algorithm," while the engineers who built the query remain completely invisible and untouchable. There's not going to be a hotline to call. There's no help desk or 1-800 number to get your name off of the watch list. This creates an invisible fourth branch of government, a corporate priesthood, because make no mistake, the AI god is fully developed at this point and is only establishing its throne. So we have this sort of priesthood, the people who serve the AI and make sure it functions properly and feeds it data, with its hands on the levers of power, but having absolutely no public oversight. The people don't get a say in this. The psychological effect on the agencies themselves is corrosive, because over time, local police, border agents, federal analysts, all those guys, they will begin to defer to Palantir's team as the real brains in the room. This is one of the reasons that ChatGPT and these AI models are so dangerous right now, is because they've sort of just been given to everybody, and so everybody stops thinking because they just ask AI. They just ask ChatGPT or any of your AI models. I know a lot of you guys think that these AI models are different and like some are on your team and some will tell you secrets. You guys are fucking retarded. They're all the same. They're all the same. These things are designed, and I know you guys won't believe me because a lot of you guys have gotten so deep into the AI universe that you believe that it actually is on your team or it actually communicates with you in a way that it isn't communicating with anybody else. That is simply not true. It's not telling you the secrets of the universe. If you ever go into your AI model and you're like, "Hey AI, what's Bigfoot?" or some gay shit like that, and then you come to me and you're like, "Oh, this is what AI told me. Isn't this crazy?" I'm gonna laugh in your face. No, you're crazy for believing that that's true. That the system that was designed to monitor you would be telling you the secrets of the universe and you actually believe it. Stop being so gullible. Go outside, touch some grass, because this stuff is not on your team. The software becomes an oracle. Decision-making will erode into a kind of techno-feudalism where corporate employees will decide what the truth is and government agents will carry it out. Even seasoned officers will start to phrase their recommendations with, "Well, the system says," or "Palantir says," rather than, "Well, the evidence says." Because we're moving away from a reality that's based on evidence and into a reality that's based on prediction. This is called witchcraft, in my opinion, but everybody will call it their own thing. All accountability will dissolve. Everything will be blamed on the machine. The trouble is, the machine can't be held accountable because it's not alive. In fiction, you can show how dangerous this becomes. You can imagine a future where a Palantir team embedded inside a federal emergency office quietly rewrites the criteria for critical infrastructure to favor their private clients. Roads and pipelines and communication grids, all prioritized for protection or neglect based not on public need, but on unseen algorithms. Oh, you tend to Google problematic things like how to make a pipe bomb, or where the nearest this, that, or the other thing is, or where so-and-so lives? We're just gonna turn your Wi-Fi speed to 0. How about that? Now figure it out. Yeah. In a disaster, the software is going to route resources away from one region and toward another, and no one knows why. No one voted for it. No one even knows who made the call. This is the horror of embedded operatives. Private power sitting inside public command with no one watching the watchers. Didn't they ask us a long time ago who watches the watchers? Palantir's government-facing products no longer just collect intelligence. They're beginning to direct it toward weapons systems. In the public press, this sounds like battlefield integration or something you might find in Ukraine, real-time situational awareness or whatever, but underneath, it means something far darker. It's a live nervous system, linking sensors and data streams and autonomous weapons into one decision-making organism. It's like Zurg from Toy Story. In military jargon, this is kill chain acceleration. In plain English, it's the transfer of life and death judgment from human deliberation, a judge, a jury, into software logic. For decades, the grim comfort of war was that someone, somewhere, had to sign off on a strike, right? A name, a photo, a location. It's all debated, it's double-checked, sometimes even questioned by conscience. Palantir's new model is going to bypass all of that. Its platform ingests satellite images, drone feeds, social media posts, signals intelligence, local informant data, cross-linking information from multiple sites, and it all links it with patterns of past targets and outputs a target package in seconds. The operator no longer asks, should we strike? The screen simply flashes and says something like strike probability 97% or something like that. It's not a choice, it's a workflow. And because it will be mathematically and machine generated, there will be a certain amount of trust that will simply be put into it because, as they say, the numbers don't lie. You may think that this is all distant and abstract. It's reserved for Ukraine, or Gaza. But the infrastructure is modular, and Trump and Netanyahu are already preparing to push it out within the next year or so. The same code base that fuses insurgent cell phone data, or, I don't know, blows up pagers in the pockets of terrorists, or, I don't know, processes information for drone strikes in Yemen, it can all be fused into domestic threat data for emergency response. And this is in American cities now, just as it's in Gaza and Russia and Ukraine. If the state ever designates a region, a movement, or even an individual as an extraordinary threat of any type, the machinery already exists to apply lethal or incapacitating force with minimal human review. With the rollout of Palantir, you will exist in a reality where a machine can strike you from hundreds of miles away without you even knowing and without any forewarning because you've been deemed a threat without ever being told that you are a threat. You will be able to be touched, essentially, by an angel of death, wielded by the government. This is already in place. The only thing that they are waiting for is the permission to actually do it openly. Okay? The public will be told initially that this is non-lethal. And when you start seeing these drones in the sky that are monitoring you and preparing to kill anybody who deviates from, their known algorithmic existence, you should be afraid, but you will start to get used to it. We'll see drones all the time. And a lot of times we won't see the drones, like the Reapers, that'll be way up there that you'll never even see them, but they'll drop a charge on you or something. They'll drop a dime on you or something, just execute you, just right then and there. This shift also warps ethics from the inside. Soldiers and analysts stop seeing names and start seeing risk scores. In training exercises already underway, Palantir's software is used to simulate future battlefields where algorithms decide the most efficient way to neutralize patterns of hostility. That's antiseptic language for pre-authorizing violence based on behavior clusters. The further humans get from the decision-making loop, the easier it becomes to treat people not as people who are living, not as lives, but as simple data anomalies that require deletion. We become video game characters, actual NPCs, because we're no longer seen as living beings, because we're being monitored by a machine, and a machine doesn't recognize life because it has no blood. And what's in the blood? The life. This is all very, very concerning, people. Imagine a system that judges you but never tells you the verdict. This is the shape of the silent social credit system that Palantir will enable. It's not an overt numbered score posted at the town square or, at the top right of your computer screen. It's 1,000 invisible gates that open or close without explanation. Maybe in 10 years, you're hoping that you're going to become, let's just say a brand ambassador for Vogue or so. I don't know. I'm spitting random stuff. Maybe you want to be a project manager for a roofing company. Okay. I don't know what you want to do with your dreams, whichever dreams you still hold on to. But if you choose to make certain ones a reality in the future, make sure that every step of the way, online, when you're out and about, when you're thinking thoughts, when you're making friends, when you're reading books, when you're watching movies, when you're making Google searches, make sure that none of those will ever cause you to be ineligible 10 years down the road for your dream job, or that loan you don't know you're going to need, or that surgery you don't know you're going to need. Because that's how it's going to be determined. If you're not fit for that dream, you simply won't get it. And there is no notice, no charge sheet, no judge, only a cascade of closed doors based on choices you've made in private. The algorithm does not need to shout your sentence out. It just needs to make the mechanics of participation contingent on an unseen judgment. The danger is systemic because it trades obvious repression for quiet exclusion. The Chinese model of social credit is very blunt and visible. You can see a blacklist and know the rules. Palantir's approach is corrosive because it hides the mechanism behind corporate and bureaucratic opacity. One of the famous phrases from one of these lunatics in charge of this stuff said, "People will be on their best behavior at all times because we will always be watching them, even online." Right? So, that's the goal. And so banks and insurers and employers can be fed your risk scores or trust signals derived from that data. And those institutions will then make automated decisions. It won't be up to a person, it'll be up to the machine. Deny loans, increase premiums, terminate contracts, all based on signals that you can't even contest because they originate in some black box and you don't even know you maybe even made those choices because they're in your subconscious. But who thinks about how they walk? Right? On a regular basis. Who keeps track of every stray thought? Who can honestly hold themselves accountable for every single thing that they've ever done online? You're not going to be arrested. You're just going to be made irrelevant. Your life will narrow, and services and opportunities will evaporate. Nobody has to tell you why. That's just the way it is because of who you are. Who I am? Well, I'm a good guy. I deserve this. I'm a hard worker. I went to college for this. Yeah, well, not good enough for the machine. This guy over here is a Democrat. We're going to give it to him instead. That's how it's going to go. I use Democrat as an example. It can be anything. It could be, this guy has $1 million in his bank account. This guy's white, this guy's Middle Eastern, it could be this guy's Christian, this guy's Muslim, it could be literally anything. This person dyes their hair 3 times a month, so they're unpredictable. Well, ironically, they are predictable, but the unpredictableness of what color comes next is gonna we don't think you're going to be very good for these jobs because of these choices you're making regarding your personal appearance and how often you change it. So you probably can't work around kids or something like that. That's how it's going to go, my friends. Things that are going to appear like they don't even matter are going to determine the outcome of your future, and you won't even understand what choices do that for you or take those things away from you. And this invisibility is going to warp accountability. If you confront a clerk, for instance, or a bureaucrat about a denial, they can truthfully say, well, the system marked this application low. And you can go ahead and ask the agency for the criteria, and I'm sure you'll get all this legal smoke, right? But this means the entire population can be categorized and punished outside the rule of law. And that is the heart of it. That is the fear of it. Consider whistleblower stories where people found themselves labeled high risk after peaceful protest activity, or somebody like Nick Fuentes or Edward Snowden who just say the wrong things and now they can't have bank accounts, stuff like that. They didn't face these criminal charges that were justified, but landlords and employers and insurers, they just all quietly cut ties with these people because, well, the system doesn't like that I have ties with those people. The punishment is distributed through private actors who are incentivized to avoid scrutiny because opacity protects their market advantage. The chilling behavioral effect is extremely subtle and yet profound. Once participation, like buying a home, seeing a doctor, traveling, depends on invisible assessment, people begin to preemptively self-police. Right? You start getting scared. It's like you're constantly wondering what God thinks of what you're doing, right? Except it's not God. It's Palantir. It's the government. So like, am I going to be able to see a doctor because I made this post online about how, I don't agree with this certain thing? You're going to stop attending that community meeting. You're going to delete the political post you were going to write. You're going to avoid neighborhoods or friendships because being associated with them might trigger some kind of opaque threshold. Over time, social life is essentially re-engineered, and it's not by laws or force, but by some sort of anticipatory conformity. That slow, internalized censorship of desires, of curiosity. You're going to slowly stop giving a shit about literally everything because it could be problematic for you. And you don't want to not be helped by the doctor. You don't want to not be let into the grocery store. You don't want your bank account to be taken away. You don't want the ability to invest in the stock market or to leave the state to be taken from you. And so you're going to have very few opinions and very few cares because this is going to be the safest way to live. This is how a society inoculates itself against revolt. Not by marching soldiers through streets, but by quietly making rebellion unaffordable and extremely improbable to succeed because every rebel has already been found. There's no secret rebel in this universe. Finally, there's no legal fix. Not easy anyway. Existing oversight frameworks were designed for explicit rules and accountable actors. They struggle when the actor is a distributed pipeline of data partners, private contractors, and proprietary models. When the penalty is not jail, but exclusion from society, remedies like habeas corpus or criminal defense, they don't really apply. The public debate around this has often focused on like headline abuses, such as deportations, predictive policing, vaccine distribution platforms, all that. But the quieter endgame is much more insidious. It's a world where citizenship, dignity, and opportunity are parceled out by invisible algorithms that no one can challenge. In that, I mean, it'll basically tell you how to live your life. You're going to be a garbage truck driver because that is how we're going to engineer your reality. We're going to make sure that you can't get any of these other jobs except low-level garbage cleanup jobs because you've been an asshole, according to the AI, for your whole life, as long as they've been mapping you. Basically, guys, I'm screwed. I'm not going to be getting any handouts from the government in the future. I can already tell. In that world, freedom doesn't die in a single dramatic moment. It fades as people For instance, who the hell cares about Charlie Kirk anymore? Did I not tell you that everybody would forget about this in 1 week, maybe 2? Now nobody's really even talking about it anymore. And the thing is, we have even less evidence now from that murder than we did when we started. Oh, the gun's not right. Oh, the bullet is missing. Wait, no, it's not. It's stuck in his plutonium bones that can't be penetrated by high caliber rifles. Oh, there's no blood. Oh, AI everywhere, faking the images and making it impossible to know what's real. Oh, Robinson doesn't even appear to have been there. Oh, somehow he assembled a rifle on the roof, even though this assembled rifle is not that one. It was a different one. Dude, it's just endless, and we've already forgotten about it. So the fact that people think that they're going to see this coming, you've already missed it. It's already here. Consider it a lamp that just needs to be switched on as soon as Donald Trump says, "Go for it, buddy." That's where you're at. And it doesn't have to be Trump. It could be Netanyahu. It could be anybody. It's very scary. Your body will become a data port. Compliance will become a biometric feature. Health data has always been the final frontier of privacy, right? The one domain people assumed would remain protected by ethics and law and medical confidentiality. But we've been seeing an invasion of that for the past 5 years now, haven't we? In a big way, anyway. But Palantir's growing role in global health infrastructure reveals that your biology is now fair game in the surveillance marketplace. During the COVID-19 pandemic, for instance, Palantir was placed at the center of US and UK health data pipelines. Bet you didn't note that. They were already tracking whether or not you got the jab. Their platform, called Tiberius, was granted access to vaccination records, hospital intake logs, Medicare and Medicaid data, and in many cases, real-time patient histories. It was justified as logistics that were optimized for vaccine rollout. What the public never absorbed was that a defense contractor built a population-wide biometric dashboard overnight, and it was never dismantled. A defense contractor. So once health data is absorbed into a behavioral analytics weapons system, it's not medical anymore. It becomes much, much worse. And of course, like everything else we're seeing, it's predictive. So if your heart rate spikes more frequently than others in your age group, you might be tagged as a cardiac risk. If you're prescribed anxiety medication while also posting politically agitated content online, you can be labeled as behaviorally unstable. You'll never hear these terms out loud, but insurers, employers, and government agencies will receive and do receive suitability recommendations based on merged physiological and psychological metadata. Make no mistake. So, congratulations, your blood pressure is now an economic liability. And consider the next stage. Imagine a new public health mandate, a booster shot or something, a wearable biosensor, a digital immunity certification. Most people participate because it's easier. But what of people who don't want to? 10 years ago, that would spark some kind of political debate. Now, this is a data conflict. If your records show medical non-compliance, your access begins to throttle, my friend. Maybe your insurance premium will jump. Maybe you're flagged for risk behavior. Maybe your travel permissions are restricted, not by law, but by standard safety protocol. The punishment doesn't look like tyranny. It's just bureaucracy. It looks like bureaucracy. You're just prevented. People assume that resistance would be dramatic too. Crowds refusing injections, protests outside clinics. But the real battle won't happen in public. It will be happening silently between you and Palantir on your phone as individuals begin realizing that compliance is the only way to keep life functional. You'll watch as friends shrug and say, just get it, man. Get the jab. It's worth the hassle. Get the implant, dude. Just get it, man. Just get Neuralink, dude. My thoughts are crazy now, and I'm way more capable, and I got my dream job. I'm a post-human, dude. Just do it. And it won't be because they believe that this is right. It's because resistance has been priced too high. Suddenly, this looks a lot like the mark of the beast, doesn't it? and you begin to hear those words echo in your brain about how you won't be able to buy or sell without the mark. Just get it, man. It's not worth the hassle. That is the genius of Palantir's model. When biology becomes data, obedience becomes survival. You must obey, or we will kill you slowly. Now imagine this extended into, let's just say, fertility records, genetic scans, dietary logs, sleep cycle tracking via smart devices. Every bodily fluctuation becomes interpretable as either cooperative or risky. Your body stops being yours. It becomes a leased vessel whose access to society depends on regulated outputs. This isn't some fictional dystopia. It's the logical evolution of a world where health databases are controlled not by healers, but by strategists. This is the world you live in. Most people still believe there's some kind of meaningful line between government surveillance and corporate data mining. They assume Google spies for profit and the NSA spies for power. Separate predators, separate motives. Palantir erases that distinction, though. Its core function is to act as the central nervous system that fuses government intelligence with private sector data streams. In other words, maybe you want something on Amazon, but since Amazon and Palantir work together and they've decided that you don't really deserve a new generator because you might use it for things we don't want you to use it for. You can't buy a barrel on Amazon anymore because we saw that you illegally collected rain 10 years ago in the mountains of Colorado, and since you're not allowed to collect your own water in this country, that's illegal. No more barrels for you. Don't even bother trying to go to Home Depot because their database is the same as everyone else's. That is your reality. That is what's coming. Palantir's core function is to act as the central nervous system that controls the entire governmental and private sector body. Retail chains will feed it loyalty card history, like credit cards and points. Banks will feed it financial transactions, deposits and withdrawals, and late fees, all that kind of stuff. Internet and telephone companies will feed it everything. Insurers are going to feed it risk scores. Each company contributes to what it knows, right? And Palantir's ontology stitches it all together into a digital you, a threat picture. And that's not oversight. That's essentially deputizing every company. Think of it this way. Every time you swipe a credit card or drive past a license plate reader, like, when you got to pay tolls or something like that. Every time you tap into a Wi-Fi network or fill a prescription, you are unknowingly generating witness statements against yourself. This is true. Everything that happens online stays online, and everything is online. And it's all funneled into systems that do not legally recognize your right to even opt out. There's no option. Corporations don't call this spying. They call it fraud prevention. They call it loss mitigation. They call it user personalization. But once integrated into Palantir's models, your commercial history could become prosecutable evidence. Buy a pressure cooker and a hunting knife, maybe in the same week, behavior flagged. Too many cash withdrawals in certain zip codes, suspicion pattern detected. Laughably mundane actions will become algorithmically sinister. And here's the twist. Palantir doesn't need every company to willingly cooperate. It only needs a few key monopolies, telecoms, banks, insurers, logistics firms, and it can reconstruct any human life through proxy data. Even if you live off grid and you only buy with cash and you avoid all social media, your absence, as mentioned before, becomes a signal because it knows you exist. Your neighbor's smart devices will overhear your presence. Your lack of credit history pegs you as irregular. Corporate surveillance is no longer about gathering data directly from you. It's about triangulating you through the activity of everyone else. This corporate deputization will also enable plausible deniability for governments because they don't need to pass laws to force behavior. They simply allow private companies to enforce policy through inconvenience. We've all seen that, especially on YouTube. Oh, we don't like that you mentioned Hillary Clinton, so we're going to take down your video, demonetize you, and force you to go through corrective training before you can upload another video. What about the no-fly list? Airlines will quietly close ticketing options for you. Are you hesitant about the vaccine? Insurance rates are going to go up. Are you too opinionated online? Your PayPal will announce sudden technical issues. And my friends, I already go through this on a regular basis. You're not arrested. I'm not arrested. We are rate limited out of citizenship. When coercion travels through private channels, tyranny wears a customer service smile. Imagine a man, for instance, trying to flee a collapsing city. This was me this last week. I'm not a criminal. I haven't spoken out. Although, yes, I have. So imagine it's not me. Imagine it's someone else. This person's purchases, their communications, their movements, they've all placed him in a volatility bracket. So, as he books a bus ticket, transaction declined. Okay, well, I'll just rent a car. No availability in your region. Okay, I'm going to book a flight. Documentation review pending. Might take up to 14 weeks. This guy hasn't been stopped by force, right? I haven't been stopped by force. But logistically, I'm kind of locked in. I can't really get out of here, it seems. I'm kind of afraid to even start driving because what if I get to the next state line and all of a sudden I'm flagged and my credit card doesn't work at the gas station? How the fuck am I going to get back now? That is what it will look like, guys. And then gradually, dystopia will materialize itself the way that we always imagined it would. Mass poverty, mass destruction, mass crime, organized into controllable locations. That's basically how it will go. This is what a hybrid surveillance economy looks like. Very few prison bars, but a world that just quietly refuses to let you do anything. You guys should go watch that movie, Elysium. Elysium is a good movie for this because you will be able to see an exaggerated version of a Palantir universe. And it is this universe where medical help is extremely hard or impossible to get if you're not a favored citizen, where forced labor of a certain type is what everybody must go through because that is how society has been organized. You know, like everybody has a mission, but that mission is given to the person now. It's no longer I can decide my own fate. I can decide my own future. It's more like this is the lot I was given type deal. Everything that I've said today about the data fusion, the predictive policing, the simulations, the embedded operatives, it all feeds into this. Palantir isn't merely trying to be the biggest database or the best analytics vendor. Its executives openly say the goal is to become the ontology of the world. Ontology is not a marketing buzzword, guys. It's a philosophical term meaning the structure of being itself. In plain English, Palantir wants its software to be the default way all governments, all militaries, and all corporations define what is real about you, and about society, and about threats. If you control the lens through which reality is seen, you don't have to control the actors looking through it. Their behavior flows from the picture that you present. This isn't theoretical, guys. Today, when an intelligence officer, a corporate risk manager, or some kind of military commander opens their laptop, they're not looking at raw reality. They're looking at a Palantir dashboard. Red nodes mean threats. Blue nodes mean allies. Green nodes mean neutral. Complex lives, histories, contexts reduced to color-coded entities with a very few data points attached. The human mind is wired to trust the map in front of it, especially under pressure. Over time, the map becomes the territory. The system no longer describes reality. It produces it by making its representations actionable. This inadvertently creates a cascading effect. The government agency will see a threat score on a group. Okay? Funding will shift to policing that group. The increased policing produces more arrests. The arrests validate the original score. Imagine that they just put white Christians in this group. And then they just round them up because they're all in a threat group. A bank will see this type of person as a high-risk cluster. So, yep, there go the loans and all the things you need to get by in life. The system will interpret you. The ontology is self-fulfilling. Like we said before, it's like a priesthood defining sin and then finding sinners everywhere. It's a inquisition. Once Palantir's models are entrenched, they no longer need to be accurate. They only need to be used because usage itself makes their outputs true in practice. How many times have you been doing something at work and you found a better way to do it, but you're not allowed to do it that better way because, well, this is the way we do it here. Yeah. So maybe you want a way of life that involves homeschooling or living off grid or following a certain belief set. Well, that's not how we do it in this society. So, high risk. Are you starting to catch on here? In fiction, you can show this as a subtle apocalypse. Society functioning, shops open, people commuting, yet every single decision, every permission, every allocation of resources, it all silently flows through an unseen operating system that categorizes lives in real time. A politician thinks they're making a tough call. A judge thinks they're weighing evidence. A doctor thinks they are triaging patients. In reality, they're all executing the outputs of a machine that defines risk, value, and truth. The world that they believe they govern has been pre-shaped by software. And this is where the human story ends, if it's left unchecked. Because once the operating system becomes the medium through which reality is perceived and acted on, there's no outside left to retreat to. All privacy is gone. All unpredictability is gone. Dissent is rendered statistical noise. Human spontaneity, the capacity to surprise, to revolt, to strategize, to love something irrationally, all of these will become error signals. The system will correct it. What remains is not a dystopia of overt tyranny, but some kind of glistening stainless steel simulation of order in which life is perfectly managed and therefore no longer truly alive. You're a lab rat. Even though you're a living being, are you alive? This is the final destination of Palantir's trajectory. And no, it's not the destruction of the world, but it is the erasure of everything unpredictable that made the world human in the first place. So you're not waiting for dystopia. You're already inside of it. Your world no longer operates on laws, but on risk models. Your rights are no longer protected by courts, but by probability thresholds. Freedom is no longer revoked in dramatic fashion. It is slowly priced out of reach by licensing, scoring, and silent denial and computer judgment of your person. You will never receive a letter that says you're no longer a free citizen. Instead, you'll simply realize that every critical interaction in your life, banking, healthcare, travel, employment, communication, even love, has become conditional on algorithmic approval. People like to talk about how they're shadow banned online all the time. Oh, I'm shadow banned. I'm blacklisted. Nobody likes my posts. Imagine that in every single aspect of your life. You walk into a bank and you're ignored. You walk into a restaurant and nobody serves you. You go into this store and your cards no longer work because that particular store doesn't align with what you believe. The true brilliance and horror of Palantir's mission is that it doesn't conquer through force. It does not break down your door at midnight. It simply ensures your keycard stops working in certain buildings. It ensures the price of food rises specifically for you, just enough to keep you compliant. Cucumbers for you are $5 a piece, but for him, well, $2.50. And this is all because you simply asked the wrong questions. You do not see handcuffs, you see recommendations, guidelines, rules, terms of service, and you accept them because resisting the system means losing access to the system. In the machine's logic, disobedience won't be punished. It will just disqualify you from existing in our reality. And so we arrive at the end of human governance. Not with tanks in the streets or boots on necks, but with everyone quietly nudged, slotted, placed, and pre-categorized until the resistance is actually mathematically improbable. Not because people lack courage, but because the rebellion was predicted, modeled, and smothered before they ever felt it rise in their chest. Our ancestors fought tyrants of flesh and blood, but you and I will fight tyrants of code and interface, and most won't even recognize that a fight exists. Make no mistake, the system doesn't want you dead. It wants you predictable. It doesn't need to harm you. It only needs to shape you into something that's too convenient to fear and too managed to matter. A docile, data-exhaling organism optimized for logistics. And that, my friends, is the danger of Palantir. Not that it builds tools to control the world, but that it builds an ontology that convinces the world control is normal, rational, inevitable. Once that belief fully settles into the human psyche, the last great rebellion, the right to be chaotic, the right to be defiant, the right to be unscored, the right to be unpredictable, it will be lost without a single shot fired. And when that day comes, the world will look calm, efficient, peaceful, and dead. The life is in the blood.